Give it to me.
I learned the people I surround myself with, those are the people that you really test their ability in times like this. And if you do your research ahead of time, people you are bringing onto your team are the people that you can rely on in these situations, then you're going to win.
You're listening to the Career Musician Podcast. And now for your host, music director of the stars, Nomad.
Welcome to episode 15 of the Career Musician Podcast. I am Nomad, your host, and today I am speaking with Jason Land, founder of Guitar Ninjas. And let me tell you, this Guitar Ninja course that he has developed is extremely effective, teaching young kids all the way through adults how to play songs within weeks of starting the course. Jason's principles and methods are tried and true. He's got some great insights that I think all of us can appreciate and learn from. And the Guitar Ninja himself, Jason, believes, as Aristotle has quoted, excellence is a habit.
Like a great assistant who we were both like, what do we do? Okay, this is what we do. Next step, boom. And, back in business in one day, which was awesome, but had I been with someone that like could not handle pressure or been around like other members of my team that would have like flinched at all, we would not have been able to pull this off.
Somebody who would have panicked or quit because they couldn't take it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I definitely think it's a testament to like the philosophy that I try and follow and the amount of education I do with myself, and then the people you surround yourself with.
So the ultimate Guitar Ninja is sitting right in front of me. And he's speaking on the fact of the team that he's put together, how it's helped him get through this tumultuous period. You show up one day at work, there's
an inch of water everywhere on the ground, and our Burbank location was completely destroyed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now you're working through that.
We're working through the challenges.
Right.
Yeah, we're back in business in Burbank location, and salvaged the guitars, lost a lot of artwork and furniture, and just dealing with the headache, but forging forward.
I think this is the perfect way to start the podcast. As a CEO, that's what I'm trying to teach aspiring professional musicians. This is a business. We got into music not because we wanted to be business people. Right. We got into music because it hit us. It spiritually moved us, right?
Right.
However, once you graduate to a certain level and you realize, okay, I'm going to do this to earn a living, then you have to really have the paradigm shift and say, okay, now let me act like a business person.
Absolutely.
Let me learn. So let's dive in right there. So
Great.
Tell me a little bit about how you got started as a guitarist and then that transition into the business realm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I picked up the guitar when I was about 13 years old. I had been watching VH1, for anybody who remembers VH1. And The Song Remains the Same came on, which is a documentary about Led Zeppelin. It was shot in the 70s. And I just vividly remember seeing Jimmy Page in like a cloud of fog, and they were playing No Quarter, right? That was the scene for No Quarter. And I saw that and I was like, that's it. Whatever that guy's doing, that's what I want to be a part of.
So that's when the music bug bit you.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. So I had gotten a guitar a few months later, and I'm the type of personality like when I begin a journey, I am all in, full immersion, right? So I was practicing a ridiculous amount, and I wanted to know everything and anything about playing guitar. And then I got it in my mind that like this is what I want to do. I want to do this for a living. I love performing, I love writing, and I love playing. Fast forward, several years, I had graduated from a school called Full Sail, which is a recording school in Florida, and that was the deal. I had to go to some kind of school, and then my parents would let me move to California and pursue a career as a guitarist. So I graduated and then moved out, and it was my intent when I moved out here to only be an artist. So I didn't want to be a professional guitarist, didn't want to be a studio person. I wanted to write my own tunes, which I had already been doing and playing out in Philly and New York, but I wanted to write my own songs, be in a band, and that was my path. And that's what I did. So the first 4 years of me living here, that was it. I was just all about playing in this band and writing tunes, and it was great. It was an awesome time, great experience, and learned a ton about the business.
That's right.
Because when you move from from a relatively small town to somewhere out here, you're definitely naive to like how things work. You know,
thrown into the big ocean.
Right. So like my first thought was, well, we'll just get a manager, and then we'll have this A&R person come and see us, and they'll love us, and they'll put us on tour, and it'll be great. No, it didn't work out like that at all.
Isn't that a trip when you first get that reality?
Oh, slap in the face, man!
Like,
slap in the face.
Like,
well, what kind of game am I playing?
Right.
You know, what do you mean no? You know,
it's an unfair game. No. How many times do we have to hear that word before we give up? Trick question. The answer should be never. There is no amount of times you can hear the word no to make you give up if what you're trying to achieve really what your core values are telling you. If they line up with what you really want and what you really believe, then you can do it. And no matter how many times people tell you no, it doesn't matter. You can do it.
Subscribe to the Career Musician Podcast on iTunes.
We kept chipping away at the thing. It came to heads, and it looked like it wasn't really going to go to the level that I thought it could go to, personality conflicts and whatever. And I took a year off because I was just really burnt at that point because I had given everything, into this situation. Oh, like staying up 2 days in a row, right. Working on like one little piece for recording, or just hustling down people to come to our shows, and whatever it took. Absolutely. And we got some pretty cool things that had happened to us. I got in Rolling Stone, and wow. we got to go on like a Southwest tour and do all these cool things. And it was awesome. Met some really cool people. Don't take any of it back. It was a great experience. But then I took a year off, and I got into personal training, of all things, fitness training. Nice. So I've always been into fitness, and I always had it in my mind that if I'm not doing something as an artist, I want to be like helping people somehow. So I always thought I'd join like the Peace Corps or whatnot. But it ended up like I had to pay bills. So I took this gig as a personal trainer, and that really taught me a lot about kinesiology and then coaching. And that was like my first introduction into coaching, because when you're working with a client, you have to coach them to their goals, right? And like they have a weight loss goal for whatever reason, and you got to help them get from A to B from the mindset perspective of it.
Well,
right?
The best teachers are simultaneously coaches.
Exactly.
You can't just throw it at them and say, here, go do this.
Right. You got to guide them. You got to guide them. And I loved it. I mean, I loved the feeling that I would get of like seeing somebody accomplish these measurable goals. So I got back into the music world right after that, and started like just dipping my toes into different puddles, and figuring out, okay, what do I want to do now? Because the artist game is really hard. I could still do that, but do I want to start over? So I ended up doing sessions, like just doing like session guitar player gigs. I would do like freelance hired gigs, as hired gun.
So now you became the professional career guy, the sideman guy.
Right, exactly.
By default.
Exactly. So just trying different worlds, and then I did a stint in pro songwriting where I'd commute between LA and Nashville and just write with some incredible people. And then around that same time, a friend of mine had a music school that he opened in Orange County. He said, you want to come down and teach guitar? Now, I had never taught guitars. I'd like, what am I going to teach? Like, I don't know. I don't remember the very first lesson that I'd take with this guy. I was teaching for this guy. He puts me in the room, and he goes, all right, you got a client coming in. And I go, well, what do I do? He looks me right in the eyes, and he goes, just figure it out. Closes the door, right? And that was the beginning of my teaching career. Just figure it out. Okay.
and that has its own merits too. I mean, that works in a certain extent.
Well, that's like life. You know what I mean? Like you can have all the training in the world, but at the end of the day, you got to figure it out. And it's just like your audience members here, that they're in the middle of doing it.
Right.
Like there's no book that's going to tell you, do this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this. Now,
well, you and I might write it together.
Right. Yeah. So it's called experience.
Yeah.
So just get in there and do it, and use, like something like this, like a podcast and all this knowledge that's out there as tools in your tool belt to build your career, and forge your own path. So anyhow, that got me into the teaching world. And as soon as I started to get a feel for teaching guitar, that's when like there was this pivotal moment of like, yo, this is the flow that I've been looking for.
it.
You know, I mean, like, I am naturally good at this.
And it lines up with your training.
Exactly.
If you're doing physical fitness
Exactly.
training, I always say they go hand in hand.
Yeah, they totally do. And that my Guitar Ninja's course is completely derived from the study of kinesiology and motivation and philosophy that was used in those training sessions, but then in my discovery period when I was learning how to be a guitar coach. But recognizing that this is what I wanted to do. That was the point, and from there everything took off.
That's the most important fact that you could ever mention here. This is what I always say. I like to try to tell or encourage people to decide what they want to do at an earlier stage rather than later.
Right.
As we decide this, as we realize, oh, this is actually what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing it just to earn money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this because I actually want it. If you can decide that earlier on, you're going to be better off, because now you're building the next part of your life, reinforcing that.
Absolutely.
Rather than chasing, right?
There's nothing worse than that feeling of chasing, right? Because you're out of alignment with your values, and when you're not doing that kind of stuff, you're always going to be chasing. You're always going to be like at somebody else's mercy, and like your own personal happiness is going to be at somebody else's mercy. I did not want to groove like that.
That's
you know,
right.
I was like I need to be in control of me, and it starts with, am I doing things that make me feel good? Now that could be playing, that could be coaching, that could be whatever, you know, for the people that are listening. But it's so important, because when you are in a flow state, right, which is the most optimal state a human can be in, right? Flow state. Magical things happen. Like, people are attracted to you.
That's right.
Like, people respond to what you're doing, and it does not just, we're not talking just about guitar playing or music. It's anything.
That's the vertical connect.
Right.
With what I call the vertical connect with the muse. And like you said, the muse can be whatever.
Right.
Whatever source of inspiration.
Right. So just follow that, you know? Like, I definitely learned that lesson. And I'll tell you, when I made that decision, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to try and be the side guitarist. Like, that's not my world. There are people that are way better than me at that. I know I'm great at this. This is what I'm going to do. When I made that concrete decision and followed that path and let all my other decisions be resonating around that core principle and guiding light, man, everything's been upward trajectory. Everything.
Okay, so you were told no on one front, and perhaps you were told so many times after you did some self-discovery you realized, you know what? I don't really want this as bad as I thought I did. That's okay. Move on to the next chapter. See what the pages have to tell you about your life story. That's exactly what Jason did and is doing. After some self-discovery, once again, there's that phrase, he figured out, you know what, man, I really like this teaching thing. So he found his passion, and that's where he exists now. And like he said, it's been nothing but an onward and upward trajectory since he committed to it. Now he's operating in his flow state through teaching and opening this school, the Guitar Ninjas, and then starting a guitar lesson conference, and then perhaps opening more locations and expanding the vision. But he found the one thing that made him really tick. He found his why. And now he's continuing to cultivate it. Check it out.
Subscribe to the Career Musician Podcast on iTunes.
The reality of this situation is, once you found that and you realize that you're focusing on that energy of really what you truly want to do, you still have to make a living.
Yeah.
How did you transition? And that's always the toughest part for independent contractors.
Sure.
Right?
Well, it's a lot of the East Coast hustle.
Amen, bro. I call it the East Coast shuffle, the LA hustle. It doesn't matter.
There's nothing that replaces that. You know, like you can be. I have seen some incredibly talented people in the business world, in the music world, in all kinds of worlds that don't have a strong work ethic, and they just expect things to happen, and then they're looking left and right when things don't happen. Nobody's going to make this stuff happen for you. So the transition, like for me to go from like struggling musician to like established, whatever I would have called myself right now, is because I went out and I hunted that thing down and I brought it back to the cave.
There you go.
You know, like, and that's what I do every single day. So it's this mentality of, yo, this is what I want. Get out of my way. I'm going to go get it, you know?
Bro, I've met my twin. Obviously not physically, but in our mindset. Oh, wow.
But that's how it is, though, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is. And we have this conversation with a lot of people about, like, I honestly, God, I think it's like growing up in that like Northeast corridor area, because how many people have you met from that area that are like the same mindset?
Same way.
Like because we had to go out in February and shovel snow, you know? And like the summertime, my parents would be like, get outside and mow the lawn. And it's 100 degrees out.
And deliver newspapers.
Right.
And do whatever you have to do. Go down to the corner and sell something. What can you sell? I don't know. Sell lemonade.
Go figure it out.
Figure it out.
So it's in your DNA, you know, and you see everybody else around you doing the same thing, and everybody's complaining about it, but everybody's doing it. Right. And it came out here, and it just translates, you know?
Right.
So the transition to me was I don't even think it was a transition. It was just like a natural occurrence. It's like, okay, I've got 5 students, right? I got 5 students. Now, how are we going to get that to 10 students? Okay, well, let me do X, Y, and Z. Right. And then a lot of really cool synergetic things happened. Like I was saying before, like when you're in the flow state, things just attract to you. Like opportunities just happened. And that's how I was able to go like from 5 students to 10 students to 50 students to like now we're at our one location in Burbank, dude, we're at 220 students.
Incredible.
Like 220. And this is just guitar.
And
right?
how many guitar teachers do you have?
We have, let's see here, including myself. My teaching is much more limited these days, but there's 7 coaches.
All right, you might want to make it 8.
Yeah, you're right.
I think I'm coming up.
Yeah, man. Get on the wave. It's really going good right now, minus the flood.
Right.
And we just opened up another location in the city of Orange, in a really cool guitar store called Imperial Vintage Guitars.
And they have an Imperial over here on Magnolia.
Oh, yeah.
I was just over there.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So you know the owners.
I know Shai. Yep. I know Tommy. I know Joe. They have 2 shops. They got one here and one in Sherman Oaks, and then they opened a third one in Orange. Talking about like the synergy of things.
Yes.
My top instructor, her name's Sydney. She actually lives down in that area in Orange, and she had come to me and said, hey, look, I want to open a Guitar Ninjas. You know, if you want to expand, like, I want to run it. Which is the challenge, right? Like, when you're trying to expand something, franchise something.
This is your team.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? They have to be an offspring of you. Like, how you think, how you react, and your drive. And I knew that she was like this. So I said, well, yeah, well, let me think about it. You know, we'll try and scout some locations, whatnot. Yeah, literally the next day, Shai, the owner of Imperial Vintage, calls me. He goes, hey, I'm going to open a shop in the city of Orange. There's space in the shop for you to build a studio if you want to split it.
Incredible.
And yes,
there's that flow state and how it works.
Right.
It's the energy is attracted to like-minded.
Exactly. So it all came together really fast, and we built out a satellite location, what we call a satellite location, on the second floor of Imperial Vintage at Orange, and it's going good. You know, it definitely has its challenges with it because it's a whole new market, and now that's a whole other conversation about, like, definitely I think your artist could get something out of is how to just not assume that one market, the results you're going to get in one market are going to translate, right? Like, because like mindsets are different, and people's perception of things is different, and that's something that we've really had to we've learned in this Orange location. But it's good, but you know, but not going down there and feeling deterred. Like, you know, we're all in, and that's spawned some really cool thinking, which got us to Guitar Lesson Conference. All these things just keep happening, but that, to answer in a very long-winded way, that's how the transition happened. Is I just decided, and I just grinded it out, and I'm now happy to give you all the details on how I was able to do it. I mean, there were so many avenues, but at the end of the day, it was just hustle.
East Coast hustle, LA shuffle, and everything in between. I don't care what you call it, but you got to get out there and make it happen. Transitions are hard. Going from being a side person musician to being center stage, front and center, that's scary, that's hard. But if it's your passion, you'll make it happen. transitioning from being an artist to all of a sudden being a business owner, owning several locations of a music school that you have a passion for. That's not easy, but Jason made it happen. And guess what that means to me? If somebody like him can make it happen, then somebody like you can make it happen too. It means that some days your bank account might be in the red. It means that some days you might feel so depressed you don't want to get out of bed, but you overcome it.
You have to
fight through it, and that is what we're talking about.
Right.
That's that drive that just is unrelenting.
Right. The mark of a person is how they face adversity.
That's right.
You know, and I feel like you are the product of the people that you surround yourself with.
That's right.
We talked about that in the beginning, but that doesn't just mean physical people. Like that, this is one of the biggest lessons I've learned. It's what are you listening to? What are you reading?
You're preaching over here,
you know.
bro.
So like I try and align myself with podcasts or books that are all on the similar playing field. That you just like every single day, you know what I mean? You're just getting it, whether it's Tim Ferriss, whether it's
Tim
like,
Ferriss, whether it's Tony Robbins, whether it's Earl Nightingale.
Yep. Guiding philosophy that I have for myself is excellence is a habit, and it was said by Aristotle. I tell myself that 10 times a day, if not more. I mean, it's written in my house, it's written in my studio. It is in my, like I said, it's in my email signature, just so I'm all constantly reminded, so that I don't get lazy. You know, and that is the the principle of our school is that we don't accept laziness. You know, and we really look for growth mindset, what we call growth mindset, meaning that like when a challenge is in front of you. In our situation, it's maybe a student that can't handle like a G to D chord transition, something as simple as that. It's not that you can't do it, but how are you going to be able to do it?
That's right.
You know, so that mindset of overcoming adversity and doing everything that you possibly can to be the best at what you're doing. That doesn't mean you're comparing yourself to somebody else other than yourself. So every day I try and just live in accordance with being the best version of me. Understanding that I'm going to fail, but the fail is just a key, you know, and like you're given another key. And that one day one of those keys is going to unlock one of those doors, you know? So you have to be able to embrace the failure and let those core principles guide you to eventually you get to that door that you've been looking to unlock, you know, and when you have all those keys from the failure and one day it turns and it opens. As far as like the health goes, I mean, I try and tie that into my health as well.
Yes, we have to remain pragmatic and practical and do things to keep money flowing. But also, we have to have a constant positive input of information to fight those inner voices that say, hey man, you can't do it. Hey girl, you ain't gonna make it happen. That's a bunch of bull, 'cause you are. And remember this, excellence is a habit. That simply means that if you want to be great and amazing at something, you have to have a habitual experience to develop it and bring it to that point where everybody's like, yo, I need some of that. And remember to maintain a growth mindset so we can get better and better as time goes on. And don't forget, we fail upwards. Failing produces the keys to success.
You're listening to the Career Musician Podcast by Nomad.
I eat really well. I call it 95-5. I eat 95% vegetarian, 5% meat.
Talk about that briefly.
Yeah, of course. So I made this shift maybe 15 months ago.
Recently.
Yeah. I mean, I've always eaten very, very healthy, and I exercise every day, stretching a lot, you know, exercising like every single day.
Stretching, cardio,
everything.
And lifting.
I'm in the gym. I'm in the gym all the time. A lot of functional training, like all that stuff. And I feel like that pumps up your awareness,
your mental stamina.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it lets your energy carry through, and it's like all that stuff. I made a conscious shift, that, like I said, 15 months or so ago, to explore what it would be like to eat mostly vegetarian, and that has proven great results. I feel awesome.
How do you balance the sodium though? Because typically vegetarians have a higher sodium intake.
I really try and eat natural foods, and I don't add a lot of salt to things, if any. I'll do like olive oil, and a lot of the sodium stuff from the vegetarians will come from the prepackaged frozen stuff.
That's right.
So I just avoid that.
You stay away from. Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You're doing organic. You're preparing a lot of it.
Oh yeah. I eat mostly raw vegetables, and like we got one of these rice cooker things, you know, and I just throw lentils in there and make them for the week, and just eat like that. But why I say 5%, because I'm not going to deprive myself.
Sure.
Like I feel like that's really where you can run into problems,
right.
and a lot of failure can happen. And I saw that through the fitness training. Like people would I'm not going to have this. I'm done with this. And it's like a week later you're doing that.
You're gorging. If I say I'm done with pizza, I'm gorging on pizza.
Right. So if there's an opportunity for me to have a steak or something and it's well done, then I'm going to do it. But I'm not going to feel guilty about it, because 95% of the time I'm eating really, really strongly. But
there you go.
the point is that the energy shift that I felt since doing that has been awesome.
So yeah, you actually feel better.
I feel a ton better.
I know you're wondering, Nomad, what the heck are you doing talking about health and fitness? Come on, folks. It plays an integral part of our plans and accomplishing our dreams and objectives. Like Jason said, the better you feel physically and mentally, the better you perform at everything you're doing. And that's just tried and true facts. I don't care what you say, you cannot prove science, physiology, psychology, biology wrong in this area. When you're exercising and feeding and fueling your body properly, your mind just soars.
Follow Nomad's Place on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
It's all one big
keeps
thing.
Stacking up, right?
It's all one big thing.
And by the end of the day, after you're doing all these positive routines and developing these habits, you do feel like a winner.
Oh yeah.
Regardless of what you did that day. So let's say maybe you wanted to play guitar for 2 hours, but you only got to play for 20 minutes. It doesn't matter, because everything else is informing the end goal.
That's absolutely right. Can I talk about
Please?
So one of the things that ties into that, you had asked about like my principles and everything, is reflection. So I got into the habit of doing a weekly reflection. So at the beginning of the year, I write down a series of questions, and then I write down like 3 to 4 core goals. This is what I want to accomplish this trip around the sun. And every Sunday, I'll sit down and I'll answer these questions. So there's 52 weeks, right? So you got to like write down your answer 52 times.
Wow.
And all of the questions relate to the goals. So it just makes sure that everything that you're doing is in alignment with what you want to accomplish. Now, one of those questions is, what did I do this week that has moved the school forward, right? So Guitar Ninjas is like my whole world right now. So what one thing did I do this week that has gotten us forward? Now, there may have been 50 things, but maybe there was only one thing, and that one thing was maybe I just did this podcast, right? That was the only thing I was able to do this week. But it gets me in the mindset of, look, every week I'm making progress, and as long as you are taking a step forward, doesn't matter if it's 10 or if it's 1, as long as you're taking a step forward, you're moving forward. So I think that ties into the fitness thing, right? It's like every day I'm going to try and eat the best that I possibly can. Every day I'm going to try and think the best that I possibly can, and like create this clarity. Now for the mindset stuff, I'll go on like long stints of time where I'll do like meditation. Like maybe it'll be like 6 months I'll be meditating every single day. Then maybe take some time off. And then I recently, a couple of years back, got into this thing called the isolation chambers, or the float tanks, or what they're called, which is a game changer. I mean, like if you can handle those kind of things, they're amazing.
I learned by listening to Tony Robbins about that, but I've never experienced.
There's one in Pasadena.
Okay.
It's an incredible experience. So it really like makes you aware of how crazy your mind is, and then it almost like you can set like metrics on like how the meditation is working, because what I did was I went in one time and the results from that were, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even focus for like 25 minutes. And then I was like, well, I'll go back after I meditate for 6 weeks and let's see what happens. And then the next time I was in, I was way more focused. And then I did another 6 weeks of strong meditation, then back into the flow tank, and it just showed the progress. So like my mind just gets really dialed in now because of all this stuff.
So you're training the focus element of your mind.
Absolutely. And that got me on a whole tangent about how can we apply this to guitar? Like how can we apply this to guitar lessons? So we started taking our students through what I call musical meditation. And at the beginning of every lesson, we do this really strategic way of getting their mind to start zeroing in on what are the objectives we're going to do right now. And then that starts translating into their practice. But the biggest thing that I've noticed, and this is what I'm going to talk about at a guitar lesson conference, is what it does for your actual guitar playing, right? Like as far as mindfulness, we'll call it, right? I have played better guitar in the past year and a half than at all of my career, because I'm like super connected with almost every note that I'm playing right now. You know, and it's not about like the finger gymnastics or whatnot. It's how do you dial in with the soul of one note?
That's right.
How can you watch Keith Richards strum one G chord and it sounds like Jesus? You know, like how does that happen? It's because these dudes are so dialed in. That's you know, like they're like really intentful on the notes that they're playing and connecting with that. So I went down this whole path of discovering like how do you teach that? I think we're onto it. You know, we're not all the way there, but we're definitely onto it because I'm experiencing it now. It's really cool.
Meditation, mindfulness, reflection, sharpened focus, isolation chambers. What? Hey man, you gotta take the time to identify your principles and methods, or what principles and methods work best for you in order to accomplish your goals. Principles never change. They're always going to be the same. The universal laws that are in place of gravity and positive thinking produces positive results. Look, that's plain and simple, but those laws, those universal truths will not change. So now you just got to try to figure out what's the best way for you to tap into those concepts individually in order to produce the results you want.
I talk about it a lot on this podcast. There's an old saying, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. Right. However, now I think that's changed. I think, you know, jack of all trades, master of some. You know,
absolutely
that's what
agree.
I like to say.
Absolutely agree with that.
But how do you find now that you've changed your focus to the instructional aspect about songwriting, or, you know, just session work, or maybe just playing with your band? How do you juggle those moments? Do you ever have the desire to say, man, I really miss songwriting. I really miss playing with my band. Do you devote any time to those activities?
Some.
Okay, and how do you divide your schedule?
So I am very, very fortunate where I get to pick the gigs I want to do now. So what is...
That's the key.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I get to pick the gigs that I want to do, you know?
And by how did you get there, folks? You got there by focusing on one thing first.
Yeah, exactly. I created the freedom for myself.
That's right.
So what I found happens is when you are self-sufficient, then you're not desperate. And when you're not desperate, then you know things just happen.
There's no pressure.
There's zero pressure, and when there's no pressure, I mean, look, you're just like I said, you're back in the flow. You know what I mean? And like life's fun.
I always say you can't act out of desperation.
Right.
You can't pick up the phone. Man, I need a gig.
Yeah. Because it's not going to happen.
Work.
Because people are going to pick up on that, right? And they don't want to work with that. So I don't miss songwriting. You know, because I said right now I feel like I put a lot into that, and that chapter of my life, it was awesome, and maybe in the future I'll come back to that. I mean, I write like little guitar compositions here and there, but nothing to the level of what I was doing, because I feel like the business is my song. And the philosophy that I'm trying to create are the lyrics, and it's how we function is the music. So I'm great with that. You know, I had to have a real like moment where I took a week and just did a deep dive and went, am I okay with letting this go for right now? The songwriter I'm talking about.
That's right.
Am I okay with that? And at the end of the day, I was. And I don't look back on anything. I don't miss anything. Now, as far as the performance aspect of it goes, I get to play in a super cool Led Zeppelin tribute band. Well, a couple of them. And Led Zeppelin's my favorite style of music. So I founded a Led Zeppelin band that with some incredible musicians that all share the same passion for playing Led Zeppelin. And we play out, 4 or 5 times a year. And that's fine. That's good for me because I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I just love playing the material. And then occasionally I get to sit in with Led Zepp again, and then there's tons of people in the audience, and that's great. And
it makes you really look forward to those moments.
Exactly.
Instead of dreading, I got to set up the PA. I got to do this.
I don't mind doing any of that. It's totally cool. So I feel like the life is about chapters, and when the page turns, you really don't have control when the page turns, right? Because life just happens. But when the page turns, as long as you're reading the next page and you're not worrying about what you missed on the previous one, then it's gonna be fine. Like maybe in a couple more pages or a couple more chapters, I end up playing more. Like I've had more opportunities and met more incredible musicians and people doing this than before.
I always say it to my fellow career musicians. Do not act out of desperation. People sense it. And I don't care what field you're in or what life path you're taking at the moment. If you're desperate and you act when you're desperate, people feel it and they get that sense of anxiety, and they're going to tend to want to walk away or distance themselves from you. Just get your mind right, get your focus, be disciplined, and have the passion on a daily basis to continue turning the pages of your life book. You say that's easy, Nomad, for you to say, but it's really hard to do. Exactly, it is hard to do, but that's why excellence is a habit.
You're a rare breed in the fact that you put in a lot of time to discover that purpose.
A lot of time.
Not only to discover it, but then to cultivate it.
Yeah.
And that's the point where, again, that's where the discipline comes in.
That's a great word, because that's what it is.
Because that's what habits are. They're just discipline.
Yeah, man.
You have to do it every day, regardless of how you feel.
Exactly.
How people say, don't wait till you feel like doing it. Do it.
Yeah.
So you feel like doing it.
Yeah.
Know? And then it's perpetual, right? It kind of ignites itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, now I can see that just in the student base, right? Like we hit a tipping point where I didn't have to spend as much on marketing anymore, because you just start getting referrals and like it just creates this thing. Okay. And the same thing can work with artists, right?
Expound there on that tipping point.
Okay, so
that's beautiful.
This is a huge concept, and there is actually a great book that's called The Tipping Point. Once you launch something, if you continue to push it, and it gets to a certain level where there's enough people in the circle that start spreading the word for you, then it just snowballs. Like for us, it was, and I can speak for students, right? And artists there's this thing called 1,000 True Fans. There's this great article called 1,000 True Fans, which every songwriter and artist needs to read. But basically the premise of that and what I'm talking about is once you hit a threshold of people that believe in what you're doing and will tell others about that, then it creates the snowball effect where those people tell their friends, and then they tell their friends, and it becomes almost like this viral thing where it just all starts happening for you. And that for us was the 50 student mark. When we hit 50 students, it was,
then you knew
it was crazy. And now we're over 200 students. It's a whole nother.
Subscribe to the Career Musician Podcast on iTunes.
So you're cultivating, you're practicing disciplined habits, you're shooting for excellence, and eventually what happens? You reach that tipping point. You get 1,000 true fans, and bam, now you have it. Momentum, and it continues to perpetuate itself. It's a beautiful thing. Conversely, if you see some of your friends that have arrived at this point, that tipping point themselves, but yet you're not there, don't worry, your time will come. Maintain positivity, and that will breed success.
Speaking of that, because now we're talking about getting that core, you need that 50, and then it propels itself, and it just continues to perpetuate, more, okay? So more begets more, so to speak, to keep it simple.
Right.
However, have you ever been immobilized by analyzation? I always say, right? Immobilization by analyzation.
Yeah.
And as an artist, as a creative person, this goes back to your meditation routines and studies on your own self. what have you done when you come to that crossroads? You say, okay, dude, I gotta stop this. This is insanity.
Yeah, that is my Achilles heel. Is being too critical and trying to think about things too much. And every artist goes through that, right? And I went through that as an artist, where you're judging the sound of like the little bit of treble on your guitar in the whole mix of things, and you spend like 7 hours, and then by the end of those 7 hours you can't even remember where you started. So I learned that lesson a long time ago, that this is how it goes. But it is defeating. I feel like being too critical of things prohibits you from growth. And if sometimes you gotta just do a version, right? Just let it ride. Whether that's a song, whether that's a recording, whether that's a business concept or an article or whatever. Just get it done, step back, right? Let it simmer, and then come back to it later on. What has helped me is definitely the awareness of self. So very recently, I was involved in several different projects. This guitar lesson conference, the expansion of the school, we got a couple other things happening that I'm like thinking about everything at once. That it's really started to affect me negatively, where I couldn't do everything, right? I couldn't balance it, and my wife just looked at me. She's like, "Yo, you need to stop."
Quite frankly, overwhelming.
It is, and it's all good things. That's the thing. It's like it doesn't. I'm not saying there has to be bad things. It could be all good things, but it could cloud your judgment because you want to be all in on everything, and you just can't. So, having that sense of self awareness, and me going, okay, I'm not productive right now. Let's take a time out. Let's let things go. Come back, and we'll start chipping away again. It can be applied to anybody listening that is an artist, right? Like it's overwhelming to work on your first song. Maybe it's overwhelming to work on your third album. Maybe it's overwhelming to how are you going to sell 75 tickets to this venue? That you need. Put your energy into it. Step back. Take a couple days off, and then come back, and you'll look at it from fresh perspectives rather than overanalyzing everything, because you can know the truth is right there. Like that's the biggest thing I've learned. It's like the truth is in your instincts, and when you don't have your instincts because you're trying too hard, because you want it too bad, you're going to get blocked.
You are. It's so interesting how you block yourself.
Okay, so now I'm self-aware. I got the discipline, I got the habits, I got everything going. I'm starting to develop some momentum, but I overanalyze. So I become immobilized again. Oh, man, just forget it. No, don't forget it. Do a version. Just get a version out there. I don't care if it's a song, a book, a poem, a business outline, a business proposition, idea, concept, anything, intellectual property or otherwise. Do a version, put it out there, and it will start to happen. Trust.
So to wrap things up here, I do want to bring it to your focus. Again, your focus is the Guitar Ninjas and the Guitar Lesson Conference.
Yes.
So how
which you're speaking at.
Right. Oh, I can't wait. By the way, yes.
Yeah. And you bring your guitar and you take 7 hours of lessons from 9 of the best instructors in the world.
It's incredible.
And how do you teach somebody something that they're going to get immense value out of in 30 minutes?
And that's just like the email you sent me. You said, hey, what do you think you want to teach? Right away we landed on funk because I think it's unique. Not a lot of people are talking about it.
See, it's awesome.
But it's making such a resurgence in the culture these days. So I already have my lesson plan.
Great. I can't wait.
But I was curious to see how you put that together. I always work in 10-minute segments, so I figure in 30 minutes you can accomplish a lot in 3 10-minute segments.
Yeah.
And then you have 3 points to focus on. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. I'm excited. It's August 11th, 2018.
Yep.
It's in Orange County, correct?
It's at the Anaheim Expo Center. You can get your tickets at guitarlessonconference.com.
Guitarlessonconference.com.
Yep. And again, there's going to be some really heavy hitter players and teachers there. But the main thing I was looking for when selecting the lineup was the people. How do people communicate? All the instructors were specifically chosen for their communication skills. I mean, yourself included. Like if you're able to communicate a message people are going to get it, right?
That's right.
But not every guitar player can communicate a message verbally. They might be able to do it through their fingers.
That's right.
Have you ever seen those lesson videos from the 80s where they would have BB King or like these other guys?
I used to own boxes
Right.
on VHS. Yeah.
You look back at them now, they're like the worst lesson videos. They're like, yeah, I just kind of like play. You know, like,
Even Paul Gilbert, who now is an amazing teacher.
Yeah.
Back then, he was like really weird, doing all kinds of off the wall stuff.
Yeah,
and he
man.
would just shred, and they would put the exercise up, and you're like, okay.
What do I get from this?
Why am I doing this? What
Right.
key is it in? Why is it a B Phrygian mode?
Right, man.
Do we even
Right.
know why?
Right. And because teaching is really an art form.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
it is.
And that's I circle back to I started as a songwriter and an artist, and I honest to God feel the same way now. You know what I mean? Like I feel like an artist. The business is my art.
That's right.
And the teaching is my art, because within those 30 minutes or an hour, depending on who I'm working with, you get to create a moment for somebody. You know, like you really get to like where are we going to go today? Like, and you just are looking for opportunities to create what we call teachable moments. And then you take the student down that pathway of, okay, I see you're struggling with this, either physically or mentally. Let me go 10 steps ahead of you and then pull you along and show you how it was done. And then through the business, I mean, that's the record. You know what I mean? That's the album.
That's right.
And how do you just keep making cuts, and how do you who's the right producer for this? And you know, it all comes back full circle, but now just on a different level. The plan of the school right now is to create a franchise model, so that we can open up Guitar Ninjas everywhere, because I really feel like what we're doing is a really unique way of learning how to play an instrument. And then we're going to be taking some proprietary products that we've created because of the course and bringing them to market in like hopefully the next year. And then we're about to launch a YouTube page. I want to talk about the philosophy. I want to talk about like the insights that I have learned from watching thousands and thousands and thousands of guitar students take lessons. Right. And I want to talk about that stuff, you know, like the coaching stuff, the mindset stuff. So our page is going to be built around that, our methodology, basically.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And so we're just like you, we're in the process of figuring out like what is our world going to look like. Yes. You know, and then let's map out the videos that we're going to shoot, and then let's just go and do them, you know, because one of the things I've definitely learned in taking on a project like this, just like taking on Guitar Lesson Conference or the expansion of the school, is tasks that seem huge become much more measurable and successful if you break them down into steps and you outline them and you say, this is what we're going to do. Now, you could call audible, right? And we can change things on the fly if we need to, but at least we have a foundation. Like I was saying with the songwriting, like the best way to write a song is just to write your first draft, you know, because it's so much easier to edit that stuff later than to struggle through, oh my gosh, I just got to get to the finish line.
Right. Failing to plan is planning to fail.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of your socials.
Easiest place to find us would be at guitar_ninjas on Instagram. On Facebook, we are at Hollywood Guitar Ninjas. We are at Guitar Lesson Conference for Instagram and Facebook, and then our website is guitarninjas.co.
Jason, this has been awesome, bro.
Oh, great combo.
I'm already thinking about episode number 2 with you.
Oh,
so.
man, yeah. we could talk for another hour, easy.
Absolutely, and then we'll do some video components in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to be involved, and I'm putting this on the podcast because I want everybody to hear it, so I'm held accountable. I want to be involved in everything that the Ninjas are doing.
Oh, absolutely. You know what would be cool? So we have like celebrity guitarists come to our school and talk to our kids. So we've had Joe Bonamassa there, and a few other players, and this is how I was able to meet Jimmy Page was through this.
Dude, my East Coast brother.
Yeah.
Guitar Ninjas in the house.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, that wraps this episode with Jason, the ultimate guitar ninja, founder of the Guitar Ninjas School in Burbank and Orange County, and new locations in the future. Also founder of the Guitar Lesson Conference, coming at you this August 11th, 2018. Down in Orange County. So we're stoked. I'm going to be teaching a funk guitar course there. So if you're around, you better sign up, man, because it's going to get funky. And I believe we have Marty Schwartz is also going to be teaching, the famed YouTube Marty Schwartz. Also, the famed session ace Tim Pierce, definitely one of my heroes. So there's going to be some great guitar ismaticisms, guitar head nerd stuff going on down there. So come and check it out. Listen, this podcast was so enlightening for me even, and just so affirming. Jason affirmed a lot of concepts that I already believe in, and to hear somebody else say it and actually do it and act on those beliefs really helps propel me in a new way and energizes me, and I hope it did the same for you. Folks, remember, this is a passion project of mine, the career musician. I truly believe that we must look out for one another and advocate for musicians' rights in the business of music, because it can get crazy out there and a little scary, especially for professional career musicians, as we don't have agents and managers most often. So we have to look out for ourselves, and that's the whole concept behind this podcast. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and check us out next time for The Career Musician.
That's a wrap for today. Be sure to leave a review and subscribe to the Career Musician Podcast.
I'm just a nomad, nowhere man, writing the songs in this one-man band. A nomad.